This is going to be focused on Zilliqa today. Now, we used to cover Zilliqa quite a bit here on the show, really around the evolution, I think maybe in the birth of when we saw so many new projects launching at really kind of the launch of when Meta rebranded, or I should say, Facebook rebranded to Meta. It launched a lot of companies and projects really in the Web3 space, especially in the metaverse space. And Zilliqa was one of those. So maybe if you're new to the show, you may not even know this project out there. So this will be brand new for you. For those that know Zilliqa well, then maybe this will be a welcome sight. So joining us today is Matt Dyer, who is the CEO over at Zilliqa. Great to have you.
Paul, thank you very much for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
So Matt, you know, as I said, we've covered Zilliqa pretty much at length, and I'll show you guys some things there. But Matt, can you kind of give us an update of where Zilliqa is today, and really what is the differentiation proposition between Zilliqa and other chains?
Yeah, well, Zilliqa, I guess, is on transition at the moment. I think we were one of the OG chains, as you know, Paul. We launched, I think, mainnet back in 2019. I think we're first to market with sharding, which obviously gave us a bit of first mover advantage at the time, was really exciting. Clearly, the market, I guess, has caught up in terms of what you'd class as the Rolls Royce in terms of layer ones. Zilliqa is obviously aware of that, and as part of the kind of the narrative of the story where we're heading, we're obviously evolving what the kind of the blockchain looks like. So when you think about the likes of Solana, you think of the likes of Binance, or even Avalanche, where I'd probably see ourselves going in the next period of time, we're probably going to be seen more as a layer one that offers that public-private ability to define where your shards sit, the throughput, all the things that I guess enterprises who are looking to build blockchain subnets require. We're very much going to be back on par around the UX, I guess, around finality and all that good stuff. So there's a lot we're doing specifically around the blockchain layer to get us back to the kind of the top tier is one area. And then the other area where we've had a lot of focus from a Zilliqa standpoint, and some of this comes back to the metaverse stuff that we tried to kind of deliver previously, it's really about how you can build real world use cases on the blockchain, which I think is a utopia for anyone or everyone in the space. It's not about doing something that's free. It's about how do you make revenue generating businesses. And we've kind of took a step back. We've obviously been a layer one who've looked at, I guess, a lot of grants, a lot of investments. And it's very clear that unless you've got domain expertise in a specific vertical, it's probably going to be very challenging to come up with a business that's going to be sustainable and drive revenue and make use cases that the whole market can talk about. So gaming was a great example where, from our perspective, we looked at where the market was. People want games that people find enjoyable to play. They want an experience where, I don't know, a game developer might have done this before in the gaming world. So we very much went to market, hired a chap called Valentin Corbella, this is specifically in the gaming world, to focus in on how do we bring gaming and create a case study that we can then showcase to the market to start attract developers and gamers to want to play and to build in Zilliqa. So for probably the last year and a bit, we've built out a gaming, I guess, business. You could look at what Valve have done. They've got Steam as the kind of the distribution engine. And we very much replicated a lot of the things that you see from a Web 2 perspective underlaid by Zilliqa's capability, setting the point of inflection of where you get the fans into your ecosystem and then building out the next component that maybe is part of that journey. Is that a metaverse pop-up type scenario? Potentially, but not forcing a specific use case down a person's throat, because that just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people may not necessarily understand with Zilliqa is when you guys first launched and really started rolling out, you were known for possibly one of the alternative metaverses that were being built. And granted, there was a lot of challenges there. We've seen that not only in the Web 2 space, but obviously in the Web 3 space. There's been many other projects that have kind of gone down that map. I can think of one like Red Fox is a good example, who is really focused on metaverse and continue to do that. Your pivot, though, to more use case scenarios, obviously gaming will play into that. I was over on your blog here in terms of the loyalty and the fan engagement. Now, there's a handful of projects out there. Let's go in the sports side, and you look at something like Chili's, which has been all about building fan and loyalty based in sports. And in that arena, I know you guys just did a partnership. Who was it with? Racing League? Was it Racing League?
Racing League, yeah.
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 So how do these partnerships, so I guess my question to you, is this a pivot from where you were, or what would you call that today?
So Zilliqa has really transitioned. We've obviously got the layer one public blockchain, which has not changed in ethos. Anyone can come and build in it. But from a Zilliqa perspective, we've, I guess, got a structure, I guess, under the Zilliqa group umbrella, whereby we've got verticalization and capabilities specific to whether that's gaming, whether that's metaverse, whether that's loyalty. And then behind the scenes, you've obviously got things like wallets, you've got custody, you've got market making, you've got the whole gamut of complexity that sits behind driving a token economy, where we've got, I guess, cradle to grave capability within Zilliqa to deliver that. So if you think about our go-to-market at the moment, we're very much, I guess, venture. You could argue it's venture building. So Racing League's a great example. They came to us and said there's a big challenge in horse racing. The Gen Zers are not interested really in horse racing. How do we bring the digital audience into the racing world? So Racing League, great example. They've got likes of Frankie Dettori, they've got arena racing, they've got, 17 racetracks around UK. They've got IP with all the jockeys. They've got a lot of fans. So they were saying, right, how can we bring loyalty and, I guess, access to those things as part of what we do? So we're like, that's cool.
Well, okay, so that'll be interesting to see how that rolls out, because obviously SportsFi, I think, is going to be huge, obviously, with the move that ESPN Bet's made. You see what DraftKings is doing. There's a lot of interest around this, and especially if they're starting to integrate NFTs and other Web3 strategies into this, which I think are only going to grow, especially in the sporting.
And I think
Chili's has already kind of showcased that. Good example.
And I think that's the thing. And I think the Chili's model has been brilliant to show the market what's good. But I think what we're finding is brands are looking for not so much of a cookie cutter, but something that molds into their vision and their strategy.
Yeah.
So kind of really excited to see where that opportunity goes with them. And as I say, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, so Matt, with that, I want to jump to, growth, because this is, I guess maybe, is this catching Zilliqa, obviously this interview, is this catching Zilliqa at a lull point in terms of growth right now? I was looking at just like addresses right here, and this is the daily going back, or I'm sorry, the weekly going back for quite some time, but a lot of, kind of flatline over this last year. And then if you look at transactions, also a bit flat, and then active addresses also kind of flowing in a bit flat. So is this because of what you guys were in the process of kind of a revamp for what Zilliqa is trying to do? Do you feel like that's the situation right now?
Yeah, I think the situation is fair, and I think the data kind of reflects, I guess, maybe even the state of the market. But I think where Zilliqa's been is we didn't used to be an EVM compatible chain. So until 9 months ago, Zilliqa very much was in its island. We've got an amazing smart contract language, which I guess reduces the ability to be hacked. But at the moment, that's not the narrative that people kind of want. If you don't have Solidity developers able to build on your chain, it's very hard to fork applications and get people to kind of spend time building applications. So 9 months ago, we went EVM compatible. We've seen a project, which is exciting part, built out a liquid staking protocol in Zilliqa, which we've not had before. We launched a money market protocol, Ionize, quite recently. And we've also seen from the community an EVM-based DEX built on our chain. So if you think about gamifying what we've just talked about, we've got a Web3 War, which is going to be a first-person shooter. I think start of February, we're going to enable that skill to earn capability within that application. There's another game slated not too far after that that's going to come out, which is going to allow transition of NFTs from Web3 War into the second game, which is pretty cool. So quite quickly, you're starting to see a GameFi construct starting to build in terms of tokenization. And then if you think we're starting to put some DeFi rails, which we never had before, Paul, in the last bull run or anything else, there wasn't really anything for the yield farmers to kind of do in terms of transactions and throughput. Right. But if we can start to bring applications that users are actually using, if we can start to put the rails in place where there's the ability to get yield, to put your ZILs to work in liquid form, to then borrow some stable coins against that, to then maybe buy assets in applications that we're building. Quite quickly, I guess Zilliqa starts to offer some reach maybe that other projects don't offer. And if you think about some of the partnerships we have in place that are not just, I guess, sponsorship partnerships, and then even when you think about, we did a partnership with GMEX, who just won an award at COP. And this is really about how do organizations maybe do an offset, whether that's carbon, water, whatever else, and then offer the agency back to their fans or customers to dictate where the offset goes. So we're building out a kind of a platform that's, I guess, the inflection point potentially is loyalty, but quite quickly, as part of that kind of interface or funnel, we can start to embed tokens. We can start to embed the ability for brands to do offsets, which is quite cool.
All right, so I mean that's a mouthful there in terms of the more grand plan of what you guys are looking to do. If you look at one of the more familiar projects on Zilliqa, XCAD right now, and I was looking at just the holders right now. If you look at where most of this is transacting, it's outside of the ecosystem of Zilliqa itself. Do you think that we'll see more of this kind of transaction volume with projects like XCAD and others that start to come onto Zilliqa as far as a layer one?
Yeah, definitely. I've spoken to Ollie a few times, and we've obviously got a good relationship with them. I think they were looking for faster throughput and a whole lot of other things that we could not offer them at the time. I think with what they've seen with Zilliqa 2.0 and our XShards capability, they're really kind of excited about the opportunity to start to do that. Will be changing.
Okay.
That will be changing. And as that transition comes, then it becomes a lot easier to speak to the likes of Ollie to say, look what we've got, we can deliver. We've started to build out a GameFi ecosystem that complements what you're doing from SocialFi. And even tomorrow, actually, there's an announcement with a kind of a professional trader application that's going to be looking to get access into DeFi. So again, from their perspective, they like the ambition that we've had around GameFi. If they can start to tap into that from a trader's perspective, that becomes really exciting. I'm not sure if you've heard of 1EX, but great timing. But 1EX are launching, pretty exciting, and I think we're going to be part of that. So when I speak to Ollie next time and start to explain, we've got professional traders. I think they want to be the Bloomberg of trading into the DeFi space, which is pretty cool.
Interesting.
And we're going to be. But the key thing around that, Paul, was the fact that we were EVM compatible. If we weren't, this wouldn't be a conversation that we're having, which is another reason why when you say to me, where's the transactions, where's the opportunity? I say, well, EVM's delivered it. Now it's a function of getting some of these dApps live, showing that we can actually deliver, which we're in good shape to do, and we can move forward.
That'll be interesting to see. I mean, if you guys are able to really kind of ramp up and advance the ecosystem there in terms of speed and just transactions overall, that should show well. I guess where are the big markets that you are, or that you're hopeful of going into in the future? UK,
so obviously. From our perspective, UK is an area, but then obviously we've got an entity still in Singapore, so Southeast Asia is still a massive area for us. We've partnered with RRQ, who are a big Indonesian esports team. I think they've got over 4 million followers on there, and clearly mobile's the game that they play. So if you think about what we've done with gaming, we've built out SDK, we've built out a launch pad similar to Steam. Clearly, we can launch games from there. So mobile is definitely going to be a genre that we go after to make sure we can capitalize on that, because this first game is very much PC based in terms of what you can do.
So Matt, we did a whole series of videos over a year ago. This was, just showing Metapolis. We had some of your teams on, and then we actually went to one of the events here in Miami, which is where our studios are located. And at the time, I felt like, okay, Zilliqa is going to show us something big here in the sense of what's happening. Now, granted, timing probably not optimal there with what was happening in the market, so I could see that. And then I know you guys had a rebranding that went on. I think it was right here. So you've rebranded into MetaMinds, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so what has happened with that side of the Zilliqa proposition?
So I think this is an important component. So we are targeting, if you kind of look at the examples I've given, luxury lifestyle, racing, esports, and luxury is clearly an area that we're trying to tap into. And if you talk to a lot of the brands, they're still struggling to work out how do they get into the Web3 space. So from our perspective, we still believe in the metaverse and spatial web approach. But what we're seeing is very much, I guess, private POCs or proof of values, where they test, learn, understand what's going to work for them, and then look to roll out specific pop-ups or metaverses depending on what they want. So we've set up an entity in Dubai, which is kind of where MetaMinds is based, and Sandra is still leading the charge there and doing a great job, where we've signed up a few brands to deliver against a Web3 strategy. And then I guess off the back of the strategies, they then build out the gamification and the metaverse experience that they're looking for. So it's very much front and center in our wheelhouse in terms of how we get access to brands. And as I say, conversations start, whether it's metaverse, whether it's loyalty, whether it's gaming. And I think the fact that we've got the verticalization under Zilliqa Group to enable us to go and talk to these brands is very appealing, because we can take away a lot of the complexity from them. So it's very much what we're doing, and it's going to be a lot of exciting.
Metaverse in itself had, it's run through a lot of, I won't say challenges, but there's been it's early starts, much like what we've seen in other industries, tech industries, that when you're very early like this, the bleeding edge is just that, it's bleeding. And we see a lot of those kinds of casualties in the market of start, stop, kind of reposition, get the market into a new proposition. It sounds like that's kind of the direction you guys are going. In terms of the console, because this was something also that I thought, okay, well, this is a new piece. And with gaming being such a big focus for Web3 right now, and we're seeing really a transition occur between Web 2 and 3, a lot of new games starting to really show, I think, all of the work that they've done through this bear market, and it's actually showing up fairly well. Where is this project today?
Great question. I get asked this a lot. So ambition was for us to have a console that would enable people to play via the console, with the upside of being able to mine from said console. At the time, I guess proof of stake potentially wasn't the big thing, and Zilliqa was definitely not a proof of stake blockchain. I think we've got proof of stake for, I guess, 98%, and then there's some proof of work construct to kind of get your Zills mined. As part of Zilliqa 2.0, that I guess capability is going. We're going to go fully proof of stake, which kind of links back to being able to talk to brands from an ESG standpoint. So there was a kind of a pivot or a parking of the console construct, which I know has been a frustration for quite a lot of people. I think I've got two of them in my house, so that I'm as frustrated as everyone else. But if you look at our approach to kind of our go-to-market from Web3, I think if you look at the games that we've got from Rolling Thunders, they're all copyrighted. Rolling Thunders copyright, doing all the boring stuff that you see in Web 2. And that's actually stood us in quite good stead, because we were able to actually get onto the Microsoft Store in terms of being able to download the hub to then be able to launch and play Web3 War. And I think we're one of the first. But you could argue being able on the Microsoft Store is probably a lot better for Zilliqa in terms of not only cost, but in terms of reach. And as you know, Paul, hardware is an expensive game. We haven't had the luxury of, I guess, the big raises that some of the other projects may have had. So I think as a function of what we do with FPS, the focus is really about getting the skill to earn capability out. As I said, being on Microsoft now, I think that has kind of stopped the need to really do the you can see that there. You can need to have a console as much. But as I say, once we move to proof of stake, we might start to look at doing something there again around staking your tokens or something along those lines.
Well, I mean, the good news is, I mean, there have been some advancements, within the ecosystem. Obviously, the EVM compatibility is good that it's out on mainnet this year. That was, I think, a big step in the right direction, for a lot of where the roadmap needs to go. As far as roadmap is concerned, what would be your 1, 2, 3 for 2024 right now of what you guys are focused on?
I think for me next year is getting more real world assets type capability on chain to drive the TVL up. I've got quite an exciting opportunity around classic cars that that's an exclusive, Paul, for you, that we're kind of looking at. In the new year, we'll kind of talk to that a bit more, but I'm quite excited around that. And as I say, if we can start to track the likes of the XCADs and of the world to come and do more on chain, if we can start to get some successful use cases where we can prove and come at a case study and come back on your show and say, this amount of revenue has been made from what we're doing, then people start to wake up to kind of our approach, and it's very tailored. So,
Matt, how do you go out and really kind of recruit these? Because I mean, you think about XCAD, Ali, a good example. These dApp developers, there's projects out there that are in essence looking for homes now, especially after the Binance situation that may or may not occur, whether we see the BSC chain really become the haven it once was for developers, or if we see Avalanche and Ethereum obviously continue to grow, but even Solana in general, that all have a real active community of going out and getting developers and excited about the ecosystem. What are you guys doing to change that?
Clearly, we could go out and spend money to try and attract developers to build. But if you look at what we've done with the liquid staking, if you look at what the guys from PlunderSwap have done, we've not had to give them grants to come and build some really kind of cool tech. But what you do get coming into Zilliqa's ecosystem is an amazing community. You probably get some first mover advantage in terms of the support that you'll get from the chain.
Yeah.
And then relationship wise with the kind of the brands that we're kind of working with and starting to execute against, again, we can start to drive wallets and users to them by virtue of bringing real world projects. As I say, the Photo Finish Live is a great example where they're doing a tremendous job attracting users. If we can spark the interest and start to show kind of what we're doing in that similar sort of vertical, people are going to clearly kind of wake up and start to think, what's going on over at Zilliqa? They've been quiet maybe for a while, but clearly we've been around a long time, safe pair of hands, but we're becoming a lot more aggressive in terms of bringing things to market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just looking at the Photo Finish website. So that's intriguing. I mean, that's an interesting concept of what you guys are doing around that. So I'm interested of how that continues to evolve for you. We've been speaking to Matt Dyer, of course, over from Zilliqa. It's been great having you on the show. Thanks for stopping in today, Matt. We appreciate it.
Paul, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
You bet. If you guys are over on the podcast side of things, jump over here to the YouTube channel. It's where you're going to get additional content. It's also where you get more of a visual experience. Obviously, you get a chance to see the charts when we do those breakdowns. Especially in Web3 and gaming, you get a chance to see these projects. And I think that's one of the things that is a big takeaway. If you're really brand new in Web3 and what's happening within kind of the next generation of blockchain, hopefully this is the channel for you. Make sure and like and subscribe. If you're not in our Diamond Circle, get in that. It's another great place to be for additional content. You guys want to hit me out there on X, it's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.